So this is a piece of 4x4 by 5.5 inch long rainbowed poplar that we're going to turn into a box today. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with my roughing gouge and knock the corners off and then make it round. So as I start to knock the corners back, I want to move my tool rest closer to the wood. Alright, so now that I have it rounded, the next thing I want to do is actually come in with a skew, and I want to cut a tenon on each end for my chuck. So I have a set of calipers measured to my chuck jaws. I'm just going to use a peel and cut with my skew to make it. I'm just going to do the same thing to the other side. Alright, so now that I have the tenon cut on both ends, I need to part the side for the lid off of the main body of the box. So for this one, I'm just going to eyeball how big I want the lid to be. Okay, so I'm going to stop it there, and I'm going to move my tool rest out of the way and just use a handsaw to finish cutting that little bit that I left. Alright, so there's both parts of the box. So now my next thing I want to do is I'm going to get the lid mounted in so that I can hollow the bottom of that out so that I know how big to make the tenon on the body. Alright, so I want the connection between the lid and the box to have a little bit of a taper to it, so I'm not going to come really close to the edge. So say maybe about there. I was using a little 1/4 inch bowl gouge for this. Okay, so that's enough for roughing it out. I'm going to come in with a square scraper now so that I can square up this edge and flatten the bottom out a little bit. Okay, so that's it for opening up the recess for the lid. One thing you want to do now is come in and sand it a little bit, because after you put it on the box, you're going to turn that tenon off, so you won't be able to remount it. Alright, so now that the inside of that box's lid is done, we're going to pop this off and get the body mounted on, and then we'll start working on the body. Alright, so the first thing I want to do now is come in with my skew and cut the tenon for the lid to mount onto. So I got a pair of calipers that are measured to the size of the inside of that lid. You have to take a little bit more off. So I'm just going to come in with a skew that's got a straight edge, just to clean it up really quick. Okay, so we got a good fit now. So we'll bring the tailstock back in, and then we will shape the outside of the box. Alright, so I'm just going to use a spindle gouge to get the outside shape that I want. Alright, so that's about what I want for the shape of this box, just to have a nice taper in to the seam where the lid meets the body. Next step is to finish the top of the box and get that tenon turned off of it. Alright, so the first thing I need to do is, the lid's just a tiny bit loose, so I'm just going to use a paper towel to give a little extra friction. what I'm going to do is I'm going to work at turning the tenon off as much as I can with the tailstock in place, and then just pull the tailstock back just to finish the little bit that's left. And I'm just going to use my spindle gouge for this. Alright, so that's it for the top of it. So just want to get in there and work at hollowing the inside of it out now. Alright, so I'm going to start off with a Forester bit to drill out as much as I can. Alright, so the next thing I need to do is just hollow out the inside of this a little bit. So the easiest way to do this is with a gooseneck hollower, because it allows me to get underneath this pretty sharp shoulder. You could probably do it to somewhat extent with a bowl gouge or a spindle gouge. Okay, so that's it for hollowing it out. As long as you make light passes, you can get it pretty smooth on the inside with one of these tools. So I'm going to part this off of the tenon. So before I sand it and put some finish on it, I want to start making my part so that I have the bottom defined. Alright, so now that that's all done, I just got some sanding to do and then get my finish on it. Alright, to apply my finish, I'm going to start with a sanding paste, so I'm going to apply a little bit around the whole piece. Alright, now that I have it spread around, I'm going to turn the lathe on at a pretty high speed. Let's apply a little bit of pressure. Flip over to a clean part of the rag to take off any excess. Now I'm going to turn the speed down really low, and I'm going to apply a finishing wax. I'm going to turn the lathe back up. Okay, so the finish is all applied. The only thing I have left to do is to part it completely off that tenon. So all I'm going to do is bring my tool rest back in as close as I can get it. There we have it, just a little bit of sanding and apply a little bit of the wax to the bottom, and the box is complete. Get rid of the little paper towel.